Hello and welcome to the channel, everybody. I've had the Quest 3 since release, and for most of that time I've been using it for sim racing, and I thought I'd give you my impressions of using the Quest 3 in ACC, AMS2 and iRacing. Alright, so here we are in Steam VR. Currently on the screen we are running through virtual desktop, but I'm just showing you in virtual desktop what resolution I'm running. This is not just for virtual desktop, it's pretty much for all my games. I'm running at 150% and that resolution. To run this resolution, my PC is a Ryzen 9 5900X with 32 gigs of RAM and a 6900 XT in Rage mode. It is slightly overclocked on the CPU as well. For the router, I'm running 3 Eero 6s. So the resolution I'm running here may not be suitable for you depending on the GPU you're running and the CPU you're running. So it's going to be different for everyone. But for me, in my testing, the visuals were actually really good. The lenses are probably one of the best I've used. Actually, probably not one of the best, probably the best I've used in lenses. They're very clear, got a very good sweet spot. You can look obviously in front of you, but then unlike a lot of VR headsets, if you look down at the wheel or something, it's kind of a bit fuzzy. But with these lenses, even though you've got the headset straight ahead, you can actually move your eyes in the headset and everything around you can actually still see, and it's not as fuzzy and blurry as I find a lot of other lenses are. And getting in the sweet spot is so much easier with this. As soon as you put it on, you're practically in the sweet spot. So the lenses are really good. Obviously an increase in resolution for the Quest 3, so the resolution obviously helps a lot. Screen door effect is good in my opinion. Some people are saying it's not, but I think that's just because the lenses are now clearer than the older Quest 2 that you see the screen door slightly more. Me personally, I don't actually notice it. Everyone's eyes are a little bit different though. Your experience may vary, but I think the screen door effect is really good. I normally race on a HTC Cosmos Elite, and I can tell you it's definitely better than that. It's definitely better than the Rift S that I've had previously. Better than the Quest 2 screen door effect in my opinion. So yeah, all up, the visuals on the Quest 3 are really good. The visuals that you're seeing here may not be 100% representative due to recording on the CPU and playing at the same time. It may be slightly more jittery and all that. That's just a consequence of me recording. As for virtual desktop, for me, I was getting around 55-ish milliseconds delay wirelessly. As you can see in the breakdown, my network is adding around 15 milliseconds to the response time. Your network's probably going to vary unless you have an Eero 6 mesh system like I do. Then this is pretty much what you would probably expect with that. Your network could be better, could be worse. Running via cable would obviously take out this delay entirely and drop it to around 35 to 40 milliseconds, which is just a consequence of the Quest. It has to encode, it has to decode, which is adding about 20 milliseconds as well. But obviously a proper DisplayPort kind of headset, you'll take out some of that again. So the delay is always going to be slightly more on a Quest, and that's just a downfall of running through a USB-C instead of a USB and a DisplayPort. But to be honest, especially when plugged in via the original Oculus Link cable, I personally can't really tell a delay. In virtual desktop, I start to notice a little bit of a delay. It doesn't really hamper my lap times or anything too much. I don't even really have to factor it in to my driving that much. It's okay. Is it as good as, let's say, my Cosmos Elite in terms of delay? No, obviously not. But it's definitely usable, and I would happily use this over the Cosmos Elite, actually, in my opinion, despite the slightly more delay. I did find when running in virtual desktop that I did have to drop the graphics a little bit just to make it run smooth. I don't know why that is, but yeah, I just had to run slightly lesser graphics. In terms of the runtime on virtual desktop with no power bank plugged in or anything, I got about an hour and 40 minutes. If you plug in a battery, then obviously you're going to get a bit more. I was going to do that testing and decided it was pointless because everyone's got a different battery pack, has different draw rates and amperages and all that, how big the battery is, etc. So yeah, I didn't bother to do any of that kind of testing. I can tell you, with the Oculus Link cable plugged directly into the headset, I got about 3.5 hours out of it. Again, your PC USB port might be different to mine. It might put out different amounts of power to mine, but I am running on a USB-C 3.2 Gen 2 port, and yeah, I got about 3.5 hours out of it. Now, for those of you that don't know, power consumption on the Quest 3 is quite high, more than the Quest 2 beforehand. This thing chews the battery. Yes, even plugged into USB. As I said, even plugged into USB in the PC, I'm getting about 3.5 hours. But there are obviously ways around that. I think in one of my previous videos there was a few people that told me about a USB cable that obviously goes into the PC, but it splits off as well to be able to put power through the USB. That is obviously an option if you want more than 3.5 hours. If you're running through virtual desktop and want to go wirelessly, obviously a good power bank plugged in. Most power banks, it'll still drain battery with the Quest 3. Most power banks don't put out 20 watts, 18 watts, 3 amps, that kind of thing. I've personally got a power bank here that puts out a max of 20 watts and 3 amps, and that one does actually maintain the battery. I'll leave a link to it in the description if I can find it. I don't know if they sell it anymore. I bought it off Amazon, and I don't know. I'll see if I can find it, and I'll put a link down in the description. But this power bank does actually keep it kind of powered for me and maintains it, whereas no other power bank I have, even though they're called rapid charge power banks, they don't actually keep up with the power consumption on the Quest 3. So look at those options if you want more than an hour and 40 minutes or 3.5 hours wired. Yeah, just thought I'd mention that. As for sound, sound has been improved on the Quest 3, and I find with the Quest 2 I had to have it pretty much nearly at max volume half the time, but the Quest 3 I actually turned it down a bit. It's a good sounding speaker set on the Quest 3, and I've found it's a bit more bassy. It's not as tinny as a lot of VR headsets factory speakers are. And I didn't find myself plugging headphones in. Some headsets that I've had in the past, I always used to run my own headphones. But I found with the Quest 3, I was just running with the speakers that were already on there. So that's an additional thing you don't have to buy, I guess, if you don't already have it. Of course, it does have a spot where you can put in your own headphones if you wanted to, or just run it separately through the computer if you wanted to. I used this headset for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours on end, even in the same day, like literally the whole day, just being on this thing. And I found it quite comfortable. I've got the Elite strap on, and you know, I've got the Elite strap on the headset, and it's been comfortable for me. I haven't had an issue with comfort. The factory strap that comes with the Quest 3 is hit and miss. Some people think it's comfortable. I personally think it's pretty comfortable, but a lot of people don't. So I'd probably recommend going an aftermarket strap if you can. Now, as for tracking, headset tracking, because controller tracking doesn't really matter so much because you're not using your controllers to race, but headset tracking. Normally, a lot of inside-out tracking VR headsets I have had a few issues with, which is why I run a Cosmos Elite with outside-in tracking. It's more reliable for sim racing, in my opinion. In saying that, with the hours and hours and hours I have put into the Quest 3 so far in sim racing, I have not had one headset tracking issue. Not one, ever. Not one little jitter. Quest 2, I had probably once or twice. I had a few small issues, but for the most part it was okay. But still, I just preferred the outside-in tracking on the Cosmos Elite. The Rift S before, with the inside-out tracking, I had major issues with. In fact, in the middle of testing with the Quest 3, I did jump into the Rift S, and within 10 minutes or so, I was on top of the car, and it was it could be an issue with the triple screens in front of me as well. The triple screens might make it trip out a bit, but I can say with the Quest 3, I didn't have an issue. I haven't had one tracking issue with the Quest 3. It's really, really good, and I do much prefer outside-in tracking, but to be honest, with the Quest 3, I haven't had a problem. So I can really recommend this for sim racing because the tracking is good. It doesn't matter how good visuals are on another headset or how good the lenses are, whatever. If it's got inside-out tracking and it doesn't track properly while you're racing and you end up on top of a car mid-race or something, or like, no. That's unacceptable in my opinion. The Quest 3, I haven't had an issue. In saying that, your room might be different to mine. Really, really good on that. The best inside-out tracking headset I have ever used for sim racing. Game-specific wise, as most of you know, ACC is one of the hardest games out there on VR, and I've got this looking better in the Quest 3 than any headset I've used before. And yeah, obviously its downfall is a slight delay, but really happy with ACC. Pretty much on all the games actually, ACC, AMS2, iRacing. I haven't tested R-Factor 2, but not many people run it anyway. But I personally have issues recording in R-Factor 2 for some reason. I don't know why, so I didn't bother going down that road. But in all the games I've run with the Quest 3, I've pretty much pegged them at 90 FPS because I'm running 90 hertz, and no problem when not recording. Obviously when I'm recording, frame rate kind of dips a bit, but you guys probably won't have that issue. But yeah, I've pretty much pegged them all at 90 FPS, not had a problem on my particular PC specs. I do find some people in the comments have said that they find it easier to run than some other headsets, and I personally have found that as well. I found it even easier to run than my Quest 2 for some reason, and technically the resolution and everything on the Quest 3 is larger and all that, so it should be harder, and I don't know why that is. I'm obviously not the only person that is finding the Quest 3 easier to run for some reason. I don't know why that is. It's just easier. But I've found all the games to be running quite well with the Quest 3. Other than that, I think in the previous video with my first impressions for sim racing, I did say in the comments that I was probably going to do a through the lens video. And I did try that, but I actually don't have a camera lens with a good enough minimum focusing distance to actually work properly with a through the lens video. So I might have to do a separate through the lens video. I did try on my phone, but it kept switching in between different lenses and stuff. So I might do that in another video. But for the most part, yeah, this is my experience with the Quest 3 in sim racing. It's been really good. And I guess the conclusion of all this is probably one of the best sim racing headsets I've used. Well, probably VR headsets in general, really. Quality of visuals is good. Sound is good. Tracking is good. Probably the best inside-out tracking headset I've ever used. The only real downfall to it is battery usage and that milliseconds of delay. That 55-ish if you're on wireless, 35 or so if you're plugged in. So yeah, if you can deal with that, then I think this is a pretty good option for sim racing. So anyway, thanks for watching this video, everybody. Hit that like button if you liked it, subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you in the next video.